Hello everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Monday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first on the hazardous weather graphic, we've got a winter weather advisory here for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast for tonight for winds gusting to 45 miles an hour in places. That'll create blowing snow in combination with wind chills as low as 50 degrees below zero. And there are wind chill advisories out here for the central interior. Tanana Valley, central Tanana Valley, on down toward the Alaska Range, and then back here to the west, including Tanana right there, and Bettles in the Koyukuk Valley. That's for wind chills overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning to 45 degrees below zero. And actually this kicks in, I believe, at 9 p.m. this evening and lasts until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Moving on to satellite imagery, the white over here, that's because the ground is so cold, well below zero, northwest Canada, extending into the eastern interior and up along the north slope here. And cold air is coming southward, and you can make out some little bit of cloudiness here, also creeping southwestward. But looks really nice here along the southwest coast, on up into St. Lawrence Island. Winds have come down considerably up along the western Arctic coast, and the blizzard warning has ended up in that area. And clear skies except for some dense fog around Cook Inlet, especially up around Anchorage, persisting into the afternoon today. North Gulf Coast, a few isolated snow showers right with those clouds there, but pretty light, as you can see. And that's about it. Southeast coast, you have a system there still affecting the southern areas with some rain that's about over along the Prince of Wales Island area for the most part, but still lingering over toward Hyder and Stewart areas. About 1 to 2/10 of an inch has fallen there during the day today, dry up to the north, and you can see a weakening front coming eastward here across the Alaska Peninsula, elongated east to west on the graphic here today. That still brought winds, even though it was weakening, it still brought winds up to 50 miles an hour in gusts, 40 to 50 miles an hour across the Alaska Peninsula. And narrow band of heavy precipitation. Falls Pass picked up about 0.84 of an inch in the 12-hour period ending this afternoon, while by contrast Chignik had about 0.16 and just 0.05 of an inch at Cold Bay, while St. Paul and St. George both had 1/100th of an inch of rain. A little bit heavier precipitation back here with the main low center in the form of rain from eastern Aleutians here, all the way back out towards Shimia, where it's just about ready to start mixing with snow. But moderate rain reported this afternoon with gusty winds there at Atka Island. But north here, pretty nice across the Bering Sea with, looks like VFR breaking out over a widespread area there. Kodiak Island, not too bad. And for tonight, that front continues in a kind of an east-west or east-southeast orientation here, right over the Alaska Peninsula, continuing to weaken, less gradient now, and winds will be coming down, but it'll stay wet, although becoming more showery over the Fox Islands there. Some of that moisture rotating in from the low farther to the west there will be mostly just continuous rain and fog and gusty winds that'll be on the increase here over the western Aleutians out of the north and northeast with a tighter gradient there coming in as that low slowly edges eastward. Big Arctic high building into the Northwest Territories, very cold air, definitely into the minus 40 to 50 degree range there, and some minus 40 stuff working into the eastern interior tonight from the Yukon Flats southward, and a very tight gradient now along the North Gulf Coast, so winds will be pretty gusty, pretty brisk coming out of the Copper River Delta, and even more so over the northern panhandle here down to about Stevens Passage, and then much lighter down to the south, but definitely gale force winds, higher gusts, maybe heavy structural icing, heavy freezing spray in the marine areas there, with kind of an increase in that snow shower activity taking place here along the North Gulf Coast. May catch Cordova, possibly Yakutat. You're a little vulnerable on into Elfin Cove, and could see some light snow showers up toward White Pass, maybe Haines in those areas, and then some lingering, just a chance of down here, very light precipitation over the southern southeast coast with clearing, excuse me, in between. Also some snow showers here into the Barren Islands, Fognak Island. I don't think they'll get into Kachemak Bay, and maybe a little bit of light flurry conditions on the southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula out of Resurrection Bay. Look for that fog to continue to persist possibly here, at least through the evening hours over northern Cook Inlet. Otherwise, pretty good. The remainder of the state, dry and clear. A tighter gradient here with the gusty winds producing the wind chill advisories here across the central interior. And for tomorrow, still cold, clear and cold here from the Arctic coast southward into the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound area, and Cook Inlet, with the clouds and snow showers mostly off the coast here, except over toward Yakutat. You may see a chance of snow showers, very light though. Kodiak Island, same thing, kind of a southeast flow here. Could produce a little bit of light snow in that area from the Barren Islands along the upslope areas of the Alaska Range. Alaska Peninsula, that front just stalled out there, although kind of rotating back around to a more northwest-southeast orientation. So look for a chance of snow here along the southwest coast, a little bit of an increase in the southeast winds here, and pretty brisk winds with a trough coming across the eastern Aleutians, pretty numerous showers with that, and cold, northern Panhandle, cold and windy. Eastern Copper River Basin, actually, all the way in the northern southeast coast, with a chance of snow showers from the central areas and mostly cloudy skies all the way down to Dixon Entrance with that weak low hanging near the Queen Charlotte Islands. And again, this front pushing northward brings some snow to the Pribilofs, but you'll be in between this front and that trough tomorrow afternoon. So kind of a break tomorrow afternoon with not much action at all. A few light snow showers or flurries possible for St. Lawrence Island. Winds not that bad. Winds really drop off up here over the north slope in the Arctic coast from what they have been. Snow showers out west, a mixture for the central Aleutians. And then the outlook for Wednesday. Moisture makes a return here into, looks like definitely for Kenai Peninsula areas, possibly up into the Susitna Valley, western Prince William Sound, and then scattered snow showers or areas of light snow across much of the southwest interior, especially in one band from the Seward Peninsula into the northern Kuskokwim Valley, and another band here mainly along the southwest coast. This front just kind of a complex pattern out there. Southeast winds 25 to 35, eastern Aleutians, the Alaska Peninsula, rain and snow, mostly rain along the Aleutian chain with a mixture for the Pribilofs, and then of course that'll be snow just a little farther to the north. Southern southeast coast, chance of snow in the south, cold and windy north, cold and clear over much of the interior to the Arctic coast. And for low temperatures tonight, again, anywhere from 35 to 40 below for the Yukon Flats to near 40 or into the lower minus 40s there from Eagle south to Northway and Tok. And Gulkana forecast low 25 below zero tonight. And then again, like tonight, some areas of Tanana Valley falling into the mid minus 30s. And then milder as you head west here. Arctic coast even down to near 20 below for the lows tonight. And Kotzebue Sound a little below zero. Unalakleet minus 1. And then lower 20s there for St. Lawrence Island. Got some teens here along the southwest coast with a 0 degree isotherm down to about Bethel, but still in the lower 20s for Kachemak Bay, northeast Bristol Bay, lower 30s Kodiak Island. Single number south central or southern Alaska. Susitna Valley this morning, Willow down to like 15 below zero. Will be that again tonight. 20s for the southeast coast. And then for the highs tomorrow, very cold, 25 to 30 below in areas of the eastern interior, definitely below zero Arctic coast, below zero into the northern Kuskokwim Valley for the highs, and then mid-20s St. Lawrence Island, upper 20s northeast Bristol Bay, near 40 there for the Aleutians, and for the Panhandle highs, lower teens in the north to lower 30s along the coast, and then the lows for the Wednesday morning, close to 50 below there, Northway and Tok with minus 30s, minus 40s over just about all of the eastern interior to minus 30 there in the mid-Tanana Valley. Of course, below zero on the Arctic coast, right around zero for the Seward Peninsula, along the coastal areas, lower to mid-20s northeast Bristol Bay, 5 above to 15 below for south central Alaska, single numbers along the coast, and really chilly here for the Panhandle, down to near zero in the north to mid-teens in the south, and then the outer coast, maybe around 20 degrees, much milder and above freezing out over the Aleutians and even the Pribilof Islands. And then for the afternoon highs, shaping up like this, 25 to 35 below for the high temperatures here for the eastern interior areas, Yukon Flats, rising into the teens for the Seward Peninsula, near 40 for the Alaska Peninsula, and milder air starting to make a return here slowly. So teens for south central Alaska, teens and 20s for the Panhandle, and still right around 40 out along the Aleutians.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
moving along into the flying weather graphic here, the first one. IFR back out, or tomorrow afternoon, actually, let me back up to there, tomorrow morning. IFR here just southwest of Nunivak Island, another batch out there to the west, and some here along the upslope areas of the Aleutian Range. A little bit there for Kodiak Island, especially on the east side. Off the coast, IFR with marginal VFR coming up to Cape Yakataga, back to the west, a little to the northwest there, maybe into possibly into Passage Canal, but it looks like mostly down across the Kenai Peninsula and across southern Cook Inlet and Kachemak Bay. Then for tomorrow afternoon, that stays off the coast there, marginal off the coast as well, but still back up along the Kenai Peninsula, back down across Kodiak, and marginal VFR here across central and southern southeast coast. And this area shifts back to the north and expands out there, covering St. Matthew Island with marginal conditions across the Aleutians and VFR over the interior. And then for Wednesday morning, some marginal VFR showing up in the Chukchi Sea there that may catch Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, but should stay off the coast there for the remainder of the areas. Marginal for St. Lawrence Island with IFR right up at the door there, back to the southwest and then back around and south of the Aleutians. So everywhere else, just areas of marginal VFR right up to the southwest coast, across the southwest mountains. And northeast Bristol Bay, though, VFR, as is just about all of the interior and the northern panhandle, a little more in the way of marginal VFR, a little more widespread and farther north here for Wednesday morning. And then into the afternoon, that seems to get beaten back down to the south, but still hanging right along the coastline across the Gulf, Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula, up across all of Cook Inlet. Could see marginal VFR into the southern Susitna Valley, possibly the east side of the Matanuska Valley in the afternoon. IFR back St. Lawrence Island, the St. Matthew Island, and now pretty good right along the coast there with marginal VFR and a bigger area IFR coming into the western Aleutians. Passes Anaktuvik VFR for both Anaktuvik and Adigan, just about all the Berks Range. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR tomorrow, as soon as visibility is unlimited, same forecast for rainy. And windy VFR, Isabel wide open, as will be Mentasta, Tanita VFR, Portage VFR, Chilcoot and White, good VFR, pretty turbulent though with the gusty winds and the tight gradient at the surface there. So looking at freezing levels, not much to see here at the surface north of St. Paul but south of St. Matthew. Southeastward, northern Bristol Bay, hugging the North Gulf Coast, cutting down across Prince of Wales Island and eastern Dixon entrance, 2,000 feet now, suppressed down south of the Queen Charlotte, and even it's quite a ways south of Kodiak Island, about 2,000 feet there near Adak, otherwise anywhere from the surface of the Komodorskis to maybe 1,000 feet or so. And moving on to icing, just some spotty areas of light to very isolated moderate rime icing out in this area. A little more expansive here, possibly for the Fox Islands to the Alaska Peninsula, possible for the Pribilofs. Also along the southwest coast, a little bit more chance, or a greater chance of icing, I believe, here across the Gulf of Alaska with this area moisture into Kodiak Island, southern Kenai Peninsula areas, back down across Shelikof Strait and the Aleutian Range, just possibly catching the just a slight chance of some icing here along the north coast of the Panhandle, and also over toward the Stewart and Hyder area. Most of that moisture staying off in Canada. And the jet stream here, the upper level wind flow chart, 18,000 foot wind speeds with a 33,000 foot wind flow. High pressure ridge right through here. Northwest jet catching the central Arctic coast, and then northerlies at about 50 knots down into the North Gulf Coast. Main Pacific jet well to the south here with all the cold air up over Alaska and Canada. And taking a look at the 9,000 foot features. Weak low in the Gulf there, weak flow across the Panhandle, Gulf of Alaska, southeast coast. Pretty good southeasterlies or east southeasterlies through the interior, 15 to 25 knots, and southeast up to 50 with that system. And at 3,000 feet, we've got 25 to 30 knot winds at this level, and coming back around, but increasing to 40 knots out west, 20 knots northern Bering Sea, then back up to 35. Quite an area of wind through the central interior, 25 to as high as 45 knots here in some locations, much lighter to the south and much lighter up there to the north, southeast 20 for the Panhandle. Turbulence with those winds, widespread moderate chop here, Seward Peninsula into the interior and actually down along the Alaska Range into the northern Panhandle, and also out over areas of the Aleutian chain.
It used to be that you could only warn one person about a tornado after it had already blown down someone else's barn.
Now, on average, we're able to issue a tornado warning 15 minutes before the tornado's even there, and that wouldn't be happening without Doppler radar.
This NexRad system has reduced fatalities on the order of 45% due to tornadoes since its advent.
We have a lot more information now about storms and being able to understand how they develop, how they produce severe weather, and how that information might be used to improve warnings for our National Weather Service partners.
The lab is unique in that we serve the nation by supporting the National Weather Service in its mission to protect lives and safe property by improving the accuracy and the lead time of severe weather warnings.
We have a legacy of radar research and converting existing technology from military to weather purposes.
A recycled Doppler radar led to the development of NexRad, installed nationwide in the early 90s. It allowed forecasters to see storms like never before.
Not only did we help bring that technology to the National Weather Service and to help protect lives and property, but we have continued to upgrade that technology, keep it relevant, and keep it state-of-the-art.
Recently, a major upgrade was added. Dual polarization technology takes the radar from 2D to 3D. Forecasters now know more about what type of precipitation is falling, which is very helpful during winter storms, as well as how much rain is accumulating, resulting in better flash flood warnings. The radar can also detect and track tornadoes based on debris. Looking to the future, the National Severe Storms Lab is testing the capabilities of phased array radar. Originally used by the U.S. Navy, the antenna scans the skies electronically rather than mechanically, allowing the radar to focus on a storm.
With current technology, we get a full picture or image of what is going on within a storm every 4 to 5 minutes. So it's more like a snapshot. Whereas with phased array radar, we get that picture of what's going on in the storm every minute. So it becomes more like watching a movie. So we can do adaptive, rapid scanning on the storms that matter most, being able to provide the information that's most relevant when and where it's happening.
Another advantage of phased array radar is its multifunction capability, providing weather and air traffic information simultaneously.
Number one, it is a system that promises to replace and expand upon the existing weather surveillance radars. Secondly, to replace aging air traffic surveillance radars. And number three, it offers a potential application to meet Department of Homeland Security and defense requirements for identifying and tracking non-cooperative aircraft. With the replacement of all these various radars with a single system, the American taxpayer could realize substantial savings in cost.
You have a lot fewer radars to maintain, and the electronic capability of this also reduces maintenance costs because you do not have moving parts.
Not too long ago, the ability to predict severe weather was thought to be impossible. During the past several decades, research conducted at the National Severe Storms Lab has developed life-saving tools like Doppler radar. We've progressed from no warning of threatening weather to about a 15-minute lead time, and current research promises to extend that much further.
Our knowledge of severe storms and how they behave, and our use and ability to use the Doppler radar technology is in a lot of cases a direct result of that close working relationship, that research to operations component that we get between the National Severe Storms Laboratory and a forecast office.
That history and understanding of how these data can be used by our users and doing the research to help advance the use of radar technology, really it's what we live for, it's in our lifeblood, it's in our history.
It's now easier than ever to be a part of weather research. We just launched the mPing app for both iPhone and Android users, and it's totally free. PING, which stands for Precipitation Identification Near the Ground, is a research project by the NOAA National Severe Storms Lab and the University of Oklahoma. With the mobile app, you can send us your weather observations on the go. Are snowflakes falling on your head? Is hail hitting your car? Just select what type of precipitation is falling and press submit. It's that easy. It takes about 5 seconds and it's anonymous. Reports can then be viewed online. Our scientists will compare your report with what the radar has detected. This helps us develop new radar technologies and techniques. Download the app today, share your reports, and let's work together to make our nation weather ready. Learn more here and follow us.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis. Not a lot of change from yesterday. Still a thinner area up through the Bering Strait, but of course ice covering the Chukchi, Arctic coast. And the southeast winds expected here over the next few days. It's going to keep everything in more or less a stationary status quo here along the west coast with no big changes coming up. And from roughly St. Lawrence Island back in through this area, that ice will continue to slowly erode. So moving on to the coastal water forecast, we've got good gales out of the east here on the north coast tomorrow, 35 to 40 knots, small craft advisory, 25 knot easterlies. Central coast northwest, 20 on the south coast, seas 10 feet down there. And for Clarence Strait, northwest 20 with gusts to 40 knots. And Stevens Passage, almost a storm, not quite, north 45, but definitely hurricane force gusts there, 65 knots, although that's a sustained feed. 45 is a sustained, so gale warnings, high-end gales. And northern Lynn Canal, storm warning there for sure, north 55 knots, 16-foot seas. And then for Wednesday, those come down a little, down to 10 knots, or down 10 knots to 45 knots with 11-foot seas. Northeasterly gales for Stevens Passage. Now a southeast wind here in Clarence Strait at 25 knots. Easterlies 20 to 25 on the south coast and 25 to 30 on the north coast with 12 to 13-foot seas. Prince William Sound, northeast at 20, seas 3 feet. Northeast 25 here for the North Gulf Coast. And easterly 25 for the Barrens. Kachemak Bay, northeast 35 knots, northeast 30, good stiff breeze for southern Cook Inlet, 11-foot seas, and northeast 20, northern Cook Inlet with seas in the ice-free waters at 6. And then that becomes more northerly on Wednesday, and otherwise south of the Forelands, small craft advisories, northeast 30, including Kachemak Bay, east 30 here for the Barren Islands, all the way across the North Gulf Coast there with seas running 10 to 11 feet, and northeast winds for Prince William Sound at 20 knots with 3-foot seas. Bristol Bay for tomorrow, Tuesday, east 30 knots, 7-foot seas, southeast 25 on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula with 7-foot seas, and south 20 with 24-foot seas here on the Pacific side, south 25 from Chignik or Castle Cape on up to Sitkinak with 16-foot seas, southeast 20 east side of Kodiak, northeast 30 sailing down Shelikof Strait with 10-foot seas. That'll hold for the most part through Wednesday, or will hold through Wednesday. Southeast 25, so picking up a little there for the east side of Kodiak. Southeast 30 here, Pacific side of the peninsula. East 30 on the north side. Bristol Bay, same thing, east 30 knots, seas 6 feet. And for Fox Islands tomorrow, southeast 30 knots with seas running 11 to 25 feet. 25 feet here on the Pacific side, 11 to 15 feet on the Bering side. Central Aleutians east at about 20 knots with 10-foot to 19-foot seas, and then northerly gales there on the backside of that low center, 35 knots. And then for Wednesday, those drop off, become easterly 15 to 20, really coming down out that way, and kind of variable 15 to 20 here for the Central Aleutians. Southeast 30 to 35 knots there with the gales around Unalaska Island, mostly on the Bering Sea side. Southwest coast, east 25 to 30 knots tonight. Pribilofs east 25, northeast 30. St. Matthew Island, east 30 for St. Lawrence Island. And then those come down a little bit, 25 knots, still small craft advisory there for St. Lawrence Island. Easterlies, 30 knots, 9 to 11-foot seas, and those east winds extend out into the St. Matthew Island zone as well as the Pribilofs there with 13-foot seas. Going up to the Starting out with the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, easterlies 25 to 30 tonight. Brisk wind advisories all along the coastline to the central coast here. And then they really drop off considerably from what you've seen the last few days here, just east at 10, and from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, 20 knots out of the east, Chukchi east at 30. And then those come down a little bit, holding on the brisk wind advisory there from Wales up to Cape Thompson, and then 20 knots here to Cape Beaufort, west side, northeast 15, central coast now northeast at 10, south at 10 on the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, becoming southeast at 15 toward demarcation point. For tonight, again, clear and cold over the interior, wind advisories over the central interior, wind chills of 45 below, 50 below on the Arctic coast on the east side, scattered snow showers in the Panhandle, increasing winds north. Front continues to weaken here and hold about stationary along the Alaska Peninsula. Push northward out over the Bering Sea a little bit there. A chance of snow along the southwest coast of Nunivak Island. Clear and cold in the interior. Windy here from the eastern interior down in across the Panhandle with snow showers lingering and threatening the North Gulf Coast. More so for Kodiak Island. And they will get a little more extensive the next day.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.